Hi, friends. How are you? It's Nate Gustafson here. Thank you so much for joining me for today's hope message. It's the goal of these messages to fill you with hope and encouragement so that you can go out there and be a part of this army of hope who's bringing hope to the hurting as we bring the life, the light, and the love of Jesus to those that are hurting and hopeless so that they can be transformed and go from death to life. Friends, how's your soul these days? I know that's kind of a weird question, but I like it. How is the state of your soul today? Would you say that you're weary and worn down, beat down, burned out, and broken? Or would you say that you're thriving, springing to life as soon as you jump out of bed in the morning? You see, after 14 years of chaplaincy in the healthcare community, I have seen thousands of lives that are much more like the soul that is beat down, broken down, and burned out than I do the thriving spring of life soul. What is the state of your soul these days? Last week, we talked about needing to be anchored, needing to place our absolute trust, our absolute hope in the life, the light, and the love of Jesus so that we can overflow with hope as we go out and bring hope to the hurting, whether that's as a teacher or a preacher, whether that's as a counselor or a cook, whether that's as a neuroscientist or a nanny. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. You can be an agent of hope. You can be someone who brings hope to the hurting, but you can't bring hope to the hurting if you're on the sidelines being burned out and broken down. You have to anchor your hope and fuel your soul so that you can go out and bring hope to the hurting. So that's what I want to focus on today, friends, is to how do we anchor our identity in Jesus so that we can be fueled up and ready to go to bring hope to the hurting. You see, Jesus asked his closest friends and followers this question: are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn from me the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. So, friends, what's the state of your soul these days? Is it tired and burned out? Maybe you're not necessarily burned out on religion, but maybe you're burned out on teaching. Maybe you're burned out on preaching. Maybe you're burned out on the news of the day. Maybe you're burned out on politics. Maybe you're burned out on relationships in your home. Maybe your marriage is burned out so long ago that you just forgot what it was like to be, in a thriving and healthy love relationship. Whatever the state of your soul is today, wherever you are, however your soul might be doing today, I want to bring you a word of hope. I want to bring you some encouragement, some hope to anchor yourself into. Because if you're trying to anchor to God, guns, and politics, well, maybe one out of the three will give you an anchor to hold on to. If you're trying to hold hope and anchor yourself into peaceful protests, as much as we need peaceful protests in our day, that's not something that's going to last. If you're trying to anchor in the hope of a greater and better nation through the education and welfare of our children in this day, that's an amazing and noble and awesome mission to be a part of. But you can't just anchor in that. You have to anchor in something greater and bigger than that. You need to anchor your soul in the identity of Jesus. Today, I want to help us focus on how do we anchor our soul in the identity of Jesus so that we won't be turbulently rocked when the circumstances of life hit us and rock our world. We won't be shattered and burnt out and broken just because our boss has been on our case about that status report, just because our sales numbers haven't met the mark, just because we're not even sure if we're going to have a paycheck next week. Talk about burning out your soul. That's enough stress to do it. I want to help us anchor our soul and our identity in Jesus by remembering that Jesus, after he had come of age, he had his cousin John the Baptist, who was out in the wilderness by the Jordan River, dunking people in the river, baptizing them as a sign of repentance, as a sign of renewal, as a sign of taking on a new identity, that they're not going to just follow the land of dead rituals, but they're going to follow the life-giving God who created the heavens and the earth. So many times we get the two mixed up. We think that following God is all about the religion and the ritual versus the person of God, versus the life of God. And so Jesus comes to his cousin and says, "Hey, John, I need to be baptized." And John says, "No way. You don't need to be baptized." And eventually Jesus says, "Yes, I need to be baptized." So John dunks him in the river. You can find this in Matthew chapter 3. He comes up out of the river, and it says, "The Spirit of God appears like a dove, and the voice of God comes out of heaven and says, 'This is my son, whom I am well pleased.'" This is my son, whom I am well pleased. Imagine that. I mean, what would that be like to hear those words? That was the identity of Jesus. That's what he anchored himself in at the very beginning of his ministry, before he turned water into wine, before the blind could see, before the dead were raised to life, before he was raised to life. He anchored himself in his identity as the Son of God. The Son of God had to anchor his identity in his Father's love. So if Jesus needed to anchor his identity in his Father's love, why don't we need to anchor ourselves in the Father's love? Well, the answer is we do. If you try to anchor yourself in anything short of the Father's love, you're on the path to burnout, brokenness, and destruction. I don't know how I've managed not to go down that path. There are many days that my inner world has been nothing but just a shattered mess of burnout and brokenness. If you could see the thoughts and the feelings and the crazy ideas that would come through my mind in a season of weakness and heartache and despair, you'd be like, wow, this guy's really messed up. And all of us are at some point. It's just by the grace of God, I didn't act upon some of these things that really would have shipwrecked the ministry, the mission that God has had me on. But I want to bring you an encouraging word today, my friends, an encouraging word of hope that you can anchor your heart and your soul in your identity in the Father's love. You can find your worth in the Father's love, just as Jesus found his worth in the Father's love that said, "This is my son." Hear those words. You need to hear the words of God that says, "This is my daughter. I am well pleased in her," not because of how awesome she is at a certain task in her job, not because of the score that she got on her college essay, not because of, how many Bible studies she attends at church or how busy she is around the home or how, amongst her friends, she just gives off this image as the perfect woman. It's not about the image that you root your identity in, that you anchor yourself in. You anchor yourself in the Father's love that says to you, "This is my daughter, whom I am well pleased." Guys, so often we find our worth as a man in what we can accomplish, what we can do. Oh, yeah, I got that promotion at work. Oh, yeah, I can bench press 400 pounds. I can do 500 push-ups. I'm as fast as can be. Tom Brady doesn't have anything on how I can throw a football. We like to think that we're all tough and all special and all great because of our accomplishments and our achievements. Those mean nothing. Those are going to burn up like that. What really matters, guys, is our identity, rooting our worth, finding our value as a man in God's love, in the love of our Father. You may not have found the love of your earthly father. You may be like me and not even have had a relationship with your earthly father for one reason or another. And that might leave a big gaping hole in your heart. But guys, we've got to find our worth, our value, our eternal hope anchored so that we aren't cast away and thrown to the side by the troubles and the trials, anchored in the love of the Father. So go look at Matthew chapter 3. Take a look at that picture of the dove. Take a look at those words and you pray those words over and over and over, ladies and gentlemen. "This is my daughter. This is my son, whom I am well pleased." God is well pleased with you if you surrender your heart and your soul to him, not by doing more, achieving more, imaging more, building a better mousetrap, getting a greater car, going further into debt. Teachers, preachers, moms, dads, nurses, nannies, neuroscientists, hear me out. Anchor your soul in the love of the Father, and you will begin to see your soul go from death to life. If these words have been helpful to you today, if these words have been at all encouraging, please subscribe to this Hope Connection channel. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the comment section, leave me a message. What would bring more hope and encouragement to you? Also, you'll find a way to sign up for our Hope Connection newsletter. If you sign up for the Hope Connection newsletter when this video is coming out, you'll receive a free devotional, a free ebook that I created that will bring new hope to hurting souls. So, friends, please subscribe. Please subscribe to the Hope Connection newsletter. Please share this message if it's brought any encouragement to you. And I look forward to joining you again next week for another Hope Connection message. So long.